Rwanda's President Paul Kagame and the Democratic Republic of Congo DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi been welcomed in Luanda by Angola's President João Lourenço for a three-part peace summit. Now, both nations have agreed to a de-escalation process following weeks of rising tensions. The talks, brokered by Angolan President João Lourenço, aim to de-escalate the violence which has flared between the Congolese army and the M23 rebels, and which is ongoing.
I'm thanking you and concurring with you.
As President Lourenço has said, it is a question of restoring confidence between our two countries and, above all, our two peoples. And that's why I said to myself that I would do everything in my power to move the situation forward, to get my compatriots out of this hell that has already lasted for more than 20 years. Among the 6 points on the roadmap for resolving conflicts in the region is the creation of a mechanism for verifying mutual accusations. The mechanism will be headed by an Angolan general. This is one of the key outcomes of this summit.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, at least 27 million people are facing food insecurity, according to the United Nations. The UN predicts the situation will worsen due to recent fighting between the M23 rebel group and the government forces in the east of the country that has displaced thousands. With the increase in prices, these populations will have a hard time accessing certain food items, and that will certainly increase their vulnerability. I think the crisis in Ukraine is already having an impact on humanitarian action. The M23 offensive, the rebel offensive, has had a major impact on civilians. Dozens have died, including children, and more than 170,000 displaced, according to the UN. I think we need to work, the humanitarian actors, but also the development actors. We need to work with all the development programs that the government is putting in place and work in a comprehensive approach to effectively address the causes of this food insecurity and allow populations to have access to food. A new report by the UN Food and Agricultural Organization FAO says the world is moving backwards in its efforts to end hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition in all its forms. Nigerian pastors in police custody denied they were holding churchgoers in a basement against their will. Police in Ondo State freed at least 77 people on Sunday who had been told they were ascending to heaven.
Yes, after the attack, the police had to reinforce. They went back to the church, and the pastors were arrested. In all, we were able to rescue 77 members, adults inclusive, teenagers, and children.
This is the basement where the victims were being held. The preachers had allegedly convinced their followers to stay back for the second coming of Jesus Christ.
There is no dungeon. All those things are lies. We don't kidnap. And when the children brought here were 27, their parents are with us. It is a lie fabricated.
Nobody goes to people's house to bring people to church. You look for a church you like, you go there. So she's coming here on her own.
It is not the first time authorities are reporting rescuing people held by clerics, whether voluntarily or by force.
Close to 20 teenagers and adults who have refused to leave, saying they're not going to leave the police premises except to live with their pastors.
Nigeria is a deeply religious country where many clerics are revered. Authorities in the country rarely enforce rules governing places of worship.
Difficult times for global food security. According to a new report prepared by 5 UN agencies, about 830 million people suffered from hunger in 2021 due to the consequences of the pandemic and the climate crisis. The number soared to 2.3 billion when it comes to the number of people who had severe or moderate difficulties in obtaining enough food.
We have also seen that extreme poverty has increased substantially. We have lost close to a decade of extreme poverty reduction. We have also seen that inequality is going up. And in addition, of course, all the indicators of nutrition are not going in the correct way.
The situation is particularly catastrophic in Africa, with 30 million people facing hunger in the West and East suffering the worst drought of its contemporary history. On the continent, 9% of the population was suffering from hunger. Forecasts for this year are worrying, as the war in Ukraine has disrupted supply chains and caused food, energy and fertilizer prices to rise. If nothing changes, the planet will fail miserably in its goal of eradicating hunger by 2030, the UN agencies have warned.
Fuel prices soared in Ethiopia on Wednesday after the government reduced subsidies. There were long queues at petrol stations in the capital Addis Ababa, with drivers reporting shortages as they try to fill up their tanks. The price of petrol at the pump jumped 30% to nearly 49 birr, or about 94 US cents, after the change. There's a shortage of fuel in the city. At most of the gas stations there's a long queue. I don't know the cause of the problem, but there's a shortage. Whenever I want to fill the gas tank, I should either wake up early in the morning or wait for hours. Because of the hike, I'll drive my car comparatively less from now on than when it was cheaper. All the movement of goods is tied to the fuel prices. I hope the government will control the cost of living related to the fuel hike. Otherwise, it will create a crisis. The federal government, which had already hiked prices in May, plans to lift fuel subsidies progressively. The country of more than 110 million has seen inflation hovering at around 35% over the past 6 months.